Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're digging into something maybe unexpected, but really powerful for farmers' economics. It's the science, the hidden science behind getting livestock health right, and how that translates directly into, well, better profit margins.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? How nailing down the nutrition isn't just, good for the animals, but it's a solid investment, a direct line to the farm's bottom line. We're looking at these livestock feed supplements, sometimes called winter lekke. And the big idea is that what an animal needs changes constantly, season to season, even place to place.
And guiding us through this is a really insightful article by Hanley du Plessis. It does a great job showing how, say, nutrient gaps appear differently depending on rainfall patterns, winter versus summer areas, or just the local grazing quality. It's definitely not simple. You can't just use one approach everywhere.
No, absolutely not. A one-size-fits-all. Forget it. So look, our mission here today is to give you a really solid handle on the four main types of these supplements. We want to walk you through how you choose the right one for your animals, your conditions. Things like, are they growing, pregnant? What's the grazing, like green, dry? How good is it? How much is there? It's about smart choices, informed choices that actually pay off.
Okay, let's break it down then. The article lays out four basic groups: mineral, protein, energy, and production supplements. Starting with mineral ones, often called phosphate licks. Sounds basic, maybe, but they're really fundamental, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely fundamental. Yeah. When we say mineral supplements, we're talking mainly macro minerals, calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, and also those crucial trace elements, copper, zinc, selenium, things like that. But the really interesting part isn't just the list, it's why they matter so much.
So what's the key insight there? What makes these mineral licks such a game changer? When are they most critical?
Right. The key is this. Mineral supplements, especially phosphate, they act like an engine starter. They really kickstart the animal's own drive to graze. You see, the source points out that when pastures are green and growing, there's often this hidden lack of phosphate and some trace minerals. So by providing those, you actually encourage the animal to eat more of the green stuff that's already there.
Ah, so it's not just giving nutrients, it's making them eat more of the good pasture.
Exactly. It boosts their appetite for it. And that unlocks a whole cascade, like the article says. Better calving rates, heavier weaning weights, more milk, higher conception. But, and this is important, they're great on green pasture. But on dry pasture, they aren't enough on their own. You'll need protein and energy, too, if the roughage is low quality.
That really changes how you think about it, from just filling a gap to optimizing the whole grazing system. But I bet some farmers think, phosphate, that sounds expensive. Does the article tackle that?
It does, yeah. And it makes a strong case. Look, the upfront cost might seem like a bit much, but not supplementing with phosphate. That ends up costing way more. You lose out on all that productivity, reproduction, growth. It's like investing, pennies to get dollars back later.
Makes sense. Okay, moving on then. Protein supplements. These typically have, about 25% protein, plus some energy and minerals mixed in. The article draws a really key distinction here between licks heavy on urea and those with more natural or bypass protein. Why is that so important?
That difference is vital, absolutely vital. It's all about matching the supplement to the specific need. So think about animals on dry roughage, stubble fields, dry veld, that kind of thing, low quality feed. These animals really need protein help. Now, if the roughage is super low in protein, like less than 6%, and the animals just need to maintain condition, then urea-based licks work well. Urea helps the little microbes in the rumen break down that tough, fibrous stuff.
Okay, so urea for maintenance on really poor dry feed.
Right. But if you've got young, growing animals, or maybe wool sheep, also on dry pastures, their needs are different. They need protein that gets past the rumen, absorbed further down for actual growth and wool production. So for them, licks with less urea and more natural bypass protein are much better.
Okay, so how would you know? If you're out there looking at your animals, what are the signs of a protein shortage? What should you look for?
Oh, there are definite signs. The article mentions that animals short on protein. They just won't eat much. Even if there's loads of dry grass around, they back off. And a classic sign is their manure. Check the dung. If it's sparse, really black, super dry and hard, that's a big red flag. It tells you their digestion isn't working properly because the rumen microbes don't have the protein they need.
That's a really practical observation point. Good tip. And are there times when, even on dry pasture, a urea-heavy lick isn't the best bet?
Yeah, good question. Because it's nuanced. A lick that's mostly urea, It doesn't actually add much value if the animals are on, say, stubble lands that already have quite a few seeds mixed in or maybe a bit of green regrowth happening.
Yeah.
In that situation, the rumen probably has enough ammonia and nitrogen already for the microbes. So you'd be better off using a protein lick with less urea, more bypass protein to directly tackle any remaining protein needs for production.
Right. Targeting becomes key. Okay, third category. Energy supplements. Name says it all, really, providing energy, though they still have some protein and minerals. What caught my eye is that some contain something called an ionophore. That sounds technical. What is that and what does it do?
Yeah, ionophore. Sounds complex, but the idea is pretty neat. Think of it like a filter almost, or an efficiency booster inside the animal's rumen. What it does is it slows down some of the less efficient gut microbes, and that allows the more beneficial microbes to work better, making digestion more efficient overall. Basically, the animal gets more energy and usable protein from the same amount of feed.
Ah, okay, so it helps them extract more value from what they're eating.
Exactly. Better feed conversion, it helps produce more of the right kinds of fatty acids. It just makes every mouthful count for more.
So, given they boost efficiency like that, when would a farmer typically use these energy licks?
Well, the article recommends them when animals are on those really protein-rich green pastures. Think lucerne, medics, maybe lush ryegrass. Those pastures have tons of protein, but sometimes they're actually a bit low in the readily available energy the rumen microbes need to use all that protein effectively. Green grass has lots of soluble protein, right? The microbes need energy to turn that into microbial protein the animal can actually use.
Okay, so energy licks balance out high protein, lower energy green feed.
Precisely. And they're also useful if there's just not enough pasture overall, causing low dry matter intake. And one crucial point, energy licks for green pastures. They should ideally contain no NPN that's non-protein nitrogen, like urea. Because the pasture itself is already packed with natural protein, you don't need the synthetic stuff.
Got it. Okay, last category. Production supplements. These sound like the heavy hitters. Packed with energy, protein, minerals. Clearly aimed at animals with really high demands.
Exactly right. These are for the critical phases. You're talking young animals that are growing fast, animals in late pregnancy, animals that are lactating. Especially when they're on dry pastures, their protein needs shoot way up for growth, making milk, developing the fetus. So the supplement needs plenty of bypass protein, the kind that gets absorbed directly, to meet those higher demands.
Now, these must be pretty expensive, I'd imagine. How does the article weigh up that cost against the benefit?
You're right, they are expensive. The article points out their intake is usually much higher, maybe 3 times as much as a basic maintenance lick. So yeah, you need to use them strategically. Keep the feeding period as short as you can without sacrificing the result. But it's that classic trade-off, isn't it? Strategic cost versus potentially huge losses. I mean, think about the income lost if a cow doesn't conceive, or if a calf's weaning weight is way down. That loss is almost always going to be far greater than the cost of a carefully used production lick. It's really an investment.
Definitely puts it in perspective. Okay, before we wrap this section, there's a really critical safety warning about urea in the article that we absolutely have to mention. It's toxic in excess. What are the main precautions people need to take?
Yes, vital point. Animal safety first, always. With high urea licks, you have to remember the rumen microbes need time to adjust. They need to adapt. Animals getting urea for the first time. They're much more sensitive than animals used to it. So the advice is, if animals aren't accustomed to urea licks, give them just a plain salt lick for about a week before you introduce the urea one.
Why the salt lick first?
It lets them satisfy any salt craving they might have before they get the urea lick. That stops them from potentially gorging on the new lick just because they're desperate for salt, which could lead to poisoning. And maybe the most important practical tip, keep the licks dry. Don't let them get wet in the rain. Urea dissolves really easily in water that cools in the feeding troughs. If an animal drinks that concentrated urea water, they can get poisoned very easily. It's a simple thing. Keep troughs drained, keep licks covered, but it can save lives and money.
That's crucial advice. Okay, so stepping back, what's the big picture takeaway from this deep dive for everyone listening? For me, it really hammers home that carefully matching these supplements to what the animals actually need based on their stage, the grazing conditions, it's not just nice to have, it's a core strategy for making the farm more profitable, isn't it? Recognizing that needs change all the time.
Absolutely. That's the core message. This deep dive really highlights the huge value in getting granular, in understanding the details of livestock nutrition and how much it impacts the economics.
No.
And it makes you think, doesn't it? Given everything we've discussed today, all these details, how might future tech, precision nutrition advancements, maybe using real-time farm data, tracking individual animals even more closely, how might that totally revolutionize sustainable and profitable farming down the line, taking it to an even more individual level?
That's a fascinating question to chew on, something for us all to think about. Thanks for diving deep with us today.